So here we are again, groundhog. Start again.
Well, that was an excellent night's sleep in that very flat anchorage. I think much of that has to do with Liz's beautiful wahoo we had last night. It's such a tasty fish, and we've got loads more of it as well.
So here we are again, Groundhog Day all over again. Starting off flat, calm, very little wind, motoring with a couple of sails out here and there now and again. The only difference about today is that I don't have a line out. That's because yesterday we caught the biggest fish we've ever caught, a wahoo, which we had last night. We had a couple of fillet steaks which were delicious, and I've spent most of this morning so far down below cutting it up into reasonable sizes for cooking, and vacuum sealed it and put all those bits into the freezer. They're freezing away now, so we've got enough fish, I reckon, to last us for minimum 2 weeks. So while it's really great to catch a fish, it's really annoying because it means I can't do any more fishing. So I'm going to find other ways to occupy myself while we just simply motor cruise along the coast of Sulawesi. Mind you, it is a very beautiful coast, and there's always stuff to see.
Well, we continue to chug past more fishermen in their little mini baby spider boats and more gorgeous countryside. What can I say? Now, we are now part of North Sulawesi, so we've crossed over the official border from, well, I don't know what the other half's called, but this bit is called North because this is where it curves up. We have been told that this is actually more Christian, this area. And sure enough, if you look on Google Maps, you'll see a lot more churches in this area. That's not to say it's not Muslim, because there are still many mosques. Even last night in that quiet little anchorage, you could just hear a mosque in the background. Not much else to report, except these charts are a bit of a concern. They are out, they have shifted up, so I have to bear this in mind. They've not only shifted up, they've shifted across. So this stretch should be fairly straightforward, but tomorrow when we exit Sauk, it's called SAUK, is our next destination. There's quite a few rocks, so I'm trying to gauge exactly whereabouts these rocks are going to be, assuming that the chart is still out. I'm guessing at some point when we get closer to some of the big towns, the charts are going to be realigned and back in where they're supposed to be. But I don't yet know where that happens, so we have to navigate with caution along this coast. More magnificent mountains and more fishermen in their little spider boats. And the funny thing is that they're sitting there and they're waving. So you wave back and then they continue to wave. So you wave back again, and so it goes backwards and forwards until you realise they're not waving. They're actually just pulling their fishing line, toying with it like Liz does on the back of their boat. Eventually, when you do catch their eye, they do always give you a good wave. And I'm happy to say as well that what I found is, as I'm going along here, they tend to get out the way. Now, we're used to getting out of the way of fishing boats. I think, in my opinion, fishermen, especially if they're actually fishing commercially, they're the stand-on vessel, they have the right of way as far as we're concerned. So we always deviate if we're on their path. But yeah, lots of very friendly fishermen here. You can see at the moment the sea state is absolutely flat as. Now, it would be good if it stayed like this, because after this anchorage there are very few anchorages left that allow us to actually tuck in behind reefs. They're going to be a little bit more open either to the east or to the south. So what we're hoping is that all the bad weather we've had this last week or 2 weeks, even longer, have been these southwesterlies going up the Makassar Strait and sort of been sucked around across the top of Sulawesi. And that was due to a typhoon that was building off the east of the Philippines. That's now subsided, so we've got a change in weather. And what I'm kind of hoping is that this changes the sea state as well. Of course, what always happens, as we know, is that the weather does build, as you can see here, and that's just this, the landmass heating up in the morning. And as you know, we're normally greeted with a little squall as we come into an anchorage, because it's just the way that works out in terms of timing. But I'm hoping that we've seen the worst of the weather, at least for another week, which will be enough time to get us up around the top of Sulawesi and back down towards Bitung. Right, just dropped hook at Sauk, and very pretty place, if not a little bit industrial. We've got a couple of barges full of coal left at anchor here, and then you've got all the local spider boats. They're all the small ones, but there's hundreds over in that eastern corner there where the bay opens out again, but I think it's a bit too shallow for us. We're just tucked in behind two reefs. There's one just there and one just there. We figured we'd just tuck ourselves in between these reefs and just stay out of trouble. Hopefully. Usual afternoon cloud building up over there, but it makes a change actually dropping the hook in the dry. It's a novelty.
I feel lonely, yeah. Feel lonely. I feel lonely, yeah. Feel lonely late at night, late at night.
Shitty weather today, shitty start, but even in this kind of weather, that countryside there, that mountain range, still breathtaking. I counted, there are 7 layers of mountains slowly graduating into greyness, which is pretty much how you describe the atmosphere today. Very grey, a little bit of drizzle. There's a bit of wind coming from the east. Like last night we had a whole load of rain. In fact, it rained all night, and it appeared to actually come from the northwest. I hope that's not indicative of squalls coming from that direction, because the next couple of anchorages are going to be up that coastline, which could get affected by that. We won't worry about that for the moment. We'll just admire this grisly natural beauty. You often see that. Terns sitting on objects, normally logs of wood. Sometimes you get 5 or 6 of them twittering away to each other, and then they fly off as you approach them. This time it was coconuts. We've just been through, about 20-30 floating coconuts, and they had a tern on each one. So we're back into archipelagic waters, and back into meters of 1.5 kilometres now depth. So it soon drops away very quickly, and there's no one out here except us, the birds, and the odd clump of what I assume are broken up FADs, but nothing else. I've seen one little fishing boat way back out towards land. There's a big industrial complex here, and there's 3 boats on AIS at anchor there, but otherwise it's just us little chickens. You can see I've got the sail out just to give us a bit of momentum, because the speed's a bit variable, and in fact it's one of the frustrating things about doing these slightly longer day runs where you've got a long stretch between 2 waypoints. Our chart plotter calculates the estimated time of arrival to the next waypoint, and obviously that's based on your speed. So when we left we were doing 5 knots, and it said approximately 5 hours to the next waypoint. And as we came around the corner and we hit a bit of current, so the speed drops, and then it says it's 5.5 hours to next waypoint. And obviously every time that speed drops, the time to the waypoint gets further and further away, even though you're actually getting closer to it. It's quite frustrating, but it is what it is, innit? Could just about make out the easternmost tip, I suppose, of not the easternmost, what am I talking about? The northwest corner of the tip of Sulawesi, just up there. So we're going to go past the first headland and aim for a whole load of mangroves. I checked with Sharon and Lindsay, who are a week ahead of us now, and said to them, is there at any point do the charts realign themselves and start showing you what is actually, out there? And they said no. They've pretty much been navigating using satellite images, which is what we've been doing. So it's slightly frustrating because very occasionally you'll see a rock there and a rock there, and you've actually no idea, A, if there is a rock there, and B, where it really is.
Here we are, coming into our next destination to anchor tonight. It's the Bay of Amarang. It is nearly 1,000 meters deep in the middle. It's really, really deep. And it shelves just behind me here to 20 meters. So it goes, means the water's doing some funny things, got some overfalls and some strange currents, which I guess is the result of that weird shelving and that depth. But it's a nice day, and it looks as though we may actually be putting the anchor down in sunshine. First time for a while. Just got to find somewhere. We weren't quite sure which side to go. It depends on which way the wind is going and where the swell is falling, but we think we found the right place. We'll see. We'll know in about half an hour.
We're now down to 147 metres, and you can see how close we are to the land there. The idea is that we're going to go around this headland and head south, and following down that strip is supposed to be anchorable depths. Now when I say anchorable, I mean 30 metres maybe. If we're lucky we'll get 20, but the idea is just to get down here out of the way of any swell and any possible weather that's going to come in later. So yeah, it's all new to us. Exciting, eh?
Right, so we've been all the way down the coast, right to the town, and it didn't really drop below 80 metres, nowhere to anchor. So we're going to go back up, and this time we're going to try and go in a bit closer to see if we can get to 20-25 metres and drop the hook.
Well, that was a disappointment. Hate being defeated, but my general rule with anchoring is that I have to feel that I'm going to be comfortable at anchor for the night. And the problem with this shelf, which is not very forgiving at all, is that a lot of the places that potentially could have anchored are right next to construction sites, wharfs, harbour walls, and my worry is that, we've no idea what's on the seabed: rubble, rocks, concrete slabs, rubbish, that kind of thing. So if you foul your anchor, you could be in real trouble, especially if you're anchoring 25 metres. I just went back to the shelf by the beach where everyone's having their weekend break, and we managed to get to the shelf at about 20 metres, and it suddenly came right up to 9, 8, 7 metres, and I immediately put the boat in neutral, then astern, and then sort of drifted out, and it dropped away to 25 metres. So you're talking about trying to anchor on a shelf like this, which I'm not comfortable with. So we are actually going to go back to our original anchorage that we were planning to go to this morning. We've got waypoints for it, and hopefully we should get there before sundown. So after a 5:30 start and 55 miles later, we are in Batu Tingdung, and that is a little anchorage between two reefs. It is very tight here. First of all, you can see how close the shore is, and between the shore and the boat is a reef, and there's a reef just over there, and you can see the fishing stakes that line the reef. So that's a bit of a giveaway. This one you can't see, We came in and right up until the last minute, 25 metres, and it dropped away to 10 very quickly again. So I was very careful to try and drop the hook slap bang in the centre. So A, we have swinging room. B, if the wind blows up from over there and the chain stretches, we have enough room behind us. And C, when we come to weigh the anchor tomorrow, we have enough space forward of us to drive over the anchor if we need to. But we're both exhausted. Liz is on the case preparing food already, bless her. But what is nice here is that there's no people, apart from the odd fishermen. There's no mosques, no churches, no towns, no traffic. There is no road behind us this time. All we can hear is nature in the mangroves and Liz sneezing in the background.